Hi everybody, it's Jess, your go-to YouTube dance commentator, and we're here taking a look at round 2 of IDO Seoul Series 2026. We're going to be looking at third place through first place, share our thoughts just like we did with the round 1 wide cams. If you want to see all of this as I review it, it's on Patreon first, then it follows a schedule on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok respectively. Okay, I'm ready to dive in. I hope you are. Let's go. So what we're going to do is watch Royal Family, followed by Brotherhood, followed by 1 Million, and then we're going to go back to each one and share our thoughts individually. Okay. Next is Brotherhood. Okay, and then number 3.
Don't be a stranger, cause I like hot chances that I like yours. I like it all on the edge, just like you. I like tall buildings, so I can leap off of them. I go off with it, no matter how dark it is. I'm insane, but I want to. Like a badge on all my clothes. What's up, danger? What's up, danger? Don't be a stranger. What's up, danger? Like, what's up, gang?
These 3 routines have such competitive energy to them. Wow. I love a wide cam because you get to really appreciate all 3 of them. Guys, kid you not, as soon as I was about to go in and start these reviews, they privated all the videos, so I've had to wait. And they just got re-uploaded. I don't know why. Somebody on one of the comments on one of the videos said they fixed an audio issue. I didn't clock one, but hey, we're here for a good time. We have the videos now, so now I get to resume. So, what were some things of royal family set that worked very well for them? Staging, for sure. I think it's fantastic to see their staging on this. I also would say that the feature that I had mentioned in the live stream, I think it was number 15, in the front cam, it gave the impression we had an over-isolation of a singular feature, but looking at how it was staged from the wide cam, that's why we like them, I was able to see a lot more integration, what was going on environmentally and, complementarily? Is that a real word? My point is, he didn't stand out as much in that way compared to what I noticed in the live stream. So that's cool. So that's why I wanted to go ahead and make that correction, because we have the wide cam. I would say their stamina, they're very consistent in their stamina, consistent in their projection and communication, spacing. I think every team struggled with spacing to a degree because of the type of stage that we had. So it wasn't that kind of crisp and clean choices, and I think part of it comes from the transitions where a lot of people are having to kind of shoot faster to their spot because they have these really quick turnarounds of getting their people from point A to point B, and that can really sacrifice your spacing very quickly. And I would say cleanliness goes hand in hand with that. From a creativity point, I do believe theirs is the most, out of the 3, the most on brand. And on brand a lot of times can work against you because of the lack of creativity in terms of the concepts, right? Like what we saw. Now, we're going to get into concepts when we get into the other 2, right? Because I think that does matter and it really applies there. They have a distinguished perspective compared to others. That is true. The distinguished, though, is a conditioned distinguishment, meaning that we are conditioned already to be exposed to that brand. It's the same thing that I would extend to GRV, same thing to extend to Brotherhood from round one, things like that. So how you choose to package the familiar is what's going to really frame out that creativity score. So that could be why they scored a little bit lower on that. But enough of the score sheet. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about this routine. Ready, ready, ready. So we have multiple levels going down here. I let the arch back. We're starting in a risky position. And I like that we have the tilts going on from everybody. And then we have our literal feature. He said, I'm gonna go slow. We flip it. Subtle control. I love the slinky fullness of him is really cool. You have that, oh, that's really fun. And then they join in on the not quite as clean as I think would really help enhance it for it being an intro. So that would be an area, but I like the risk taking on it. I like the chest on it. The musicality of this beginning section is probably one of my favorite musicality segments that Royal Family's done in the entire season. I love the mess of this. It is disgusting. It's so good. So when they knock it down, we go low high, and then we have it where we send it over the heel twist. There's so much going on. I love it. We're going for that complexity right out the gate. The heel twist, the arm swing down, we press it back. Love the content. We bring it up to the chest, then we send it down to the hips. Come on, and then we hop it. We're moving it through. Arms go up, but the arm swing is really nice, and then we have our flips. Flips are a little bit off on our timing on that. We lift it up. Good usage of our space. Notice that front cam is going to be clocking over here. We're missing all of this when we're at a front cam shot, which is why it looked so isolated. He's not as isolated. He's more of a trigger effect to the rest of the group. Now, can the rest of the group have some complementary, more complex things to help enhance feature? Yes. But I do appreciate what we saw up until that point. Gorgeous segment. So nice. The toss downs, and I would say in the context here, bit basic on that transition off with our pocketed timing. Then we end up sending the arms out and down. We have another group going on over downstage right. Then I like the hinge over with the grab. We build up the energy up nice and high. The arms across are super fun. I like the sways happening. Environmentally, spacing's a smidgen off. You could tell between my back row and my front row on that side. And it's not just about where you want people to look at. It's the whole picture on stage. And I'm curious about this group right here, how far away they are from the wing compared to this group here. It can just make it look a smidgen imbalanced if we have too many people over on one side whenever we have a bit of an open space and there's not a productive functional usage for that compared to that downstage right. I like the head knock on that is cool. I would say this really nice kind of call response segment where they tossed it up, they responded, and then they reciprocated was really cool. I like the knock. Looks like my feature was supposed to be number 22 there. Let me double check though. They send it back. I like the isolations. Yeah, it was a bit tricky to see number 22 there with the levels all being the same amongst two groups. Very subtle, very minor thing. So then from here, I like that we now combine the groups. A bit tricky to get everybody on the same page in terms of their arms, extremities, and stylized hands. Then we have our group coming back. I do appreciate that it's syncopated. It's not just the same move on repeat, because that can be a missed opportunity on creativity in your transitions, as well as, you know, just content density. That even your transitions, I would say what you do in your transitions, not the transition itself, is going to factor into that complexity of choreography score, because choreography is content, right? So I like that we have the arm swings down and we switch it up. That's really nice there. That's probably one of my more preferred getting on stage choices. That's nice. And then they bring it in, they send it out. The arm swing is cool. We have a speed change with the shoulders. I like the subtlety of that. Then we drop the levels. I like that we have it more of a canon where of our timings with the hinge overs. I thought was cool. Then they bring it back in. Columns a little bit tricky to have established before we broke off of that, so that would be a note on our cleanliness and our spacing. So we end up accenting the switch flick, and the flicks are nice, and we have the arms accent out, and then we do a reveal in center. I am curious, which I'm going to be trying to clock. This could be me not remembering all of the sets as accurately as I should. I do tend to see a fingerprint of feature reveal happen with two columns in a feature going forward, going into either an Afro bag, dance hall bag, or a poly swag hybridized bag. So that would be my area of opportunity, is figuring out how to do a reveal instead of from back center, from the corner, lift or something along those lines, downstage. I know we do that to a degree. We do that sometimes, but it kind of feels like between the two sets and maybe from the series, I do know we do reveals from the sides. But this, I would say, is a big fingerprint that can work against you in creativity of your formation, creativity of a feature reveal by seeing something that's such a staple. But at the end of the day, though, if that's something that you want to have as like a brand maintaining perspective, no one's stopping you. I mean, I really like it. It's a really nice tone set. It's a good tone shift. Don't fix what ain't broke. But it is something that I'm noticing in formation enough that possibly entertaining a different, set structure to avoid having your feature come from back center could be something interesting to look at. Once again, I don't think it's a big enough issue that's going to cost points, like big points, if that makes it so minor. But I like the levels on it. They bring it in, and then we end up doing the flick is cool. We end up branching it up. We rotate it in, and then we syncopate with the hips. Goodness, I like the bases on it. The toss down is nice. Love the bases being represented. We have the hips and the legs, accent through it. Then we end up knocking on the hips. That's really fun. So there is which could contribute to the creativity score, because I believe Royal Family got third in creativity, is the format and how you tone set or how you shift it between the styles. It's something that's very familiar, which is not inherently original, right? Because I know you guys are low-key showcase the original format on how Mega Crew can be structured in a high-level choreography competition of a criteria structure similar to this, right? But that's the downside, this double-edged sword, which I feel like Royal Family knows this too, is that they have had to navigate with breaking from the mold, maintaining brand, but continuing to innovate, even though they have over a decade of innovation under their belt. And now it's like you're hitting that wall. And a lot of these teams are starting to hit that wall themselves in different ways, but Royal has had to do that from the launch event, before the launch event. So the fact is that they're at this place, that is enormous respect to that, because that is so hard, and no one can help you through that outside of having to look at yourself and really assess what can we do. It's a different kind of creative output that's requested of you. Request. Anyway, but I'm just saying, even though there's certain areas that they do very well, that they're known for, and they're continuing to have to grow and they get similar notes, we're not going to discredit the fact that they've grown so much in ways that other teams have not had to yet, but they've had to, right? So they've dropped it back. It was really cool. I like the drop back. Great projection. Bring it forward. I would say our range is a smidgen off between the three groupings, so that would just be an area of opportunity, the range specifically on that. But like this grab right here, they didn't have to connect, but they did. That's going to help in stylistic athleticism of the move. Now, we end up doing the same move for about an 8 count. That's going to affect complexity of choreography. In the transition, I do appreciate it. Now, when it comes to technical execution and authenticity, I think that sits mighty fine, but complexity of choreography is going to enhance that if you continue to be authentic through it. Then you have it, they coming up, and I like the knock on the hips. Digging it forward is really fun with the toss is nice. Then they end up marching with more of a predictable pocket of timing. Then we have a reveal in center. I like the partnering of that. The grab down, the commitment is fantastic. It's really nice. We did the drop, so we have more syncopation on the hips. Now, like the slap back is nice. Then we grab in. I like the fact that we're not afraid to touch each other. I think that's what helps make it more believable. Some of our spacing's a smidgen off with our trio on this. It does look like our spacing between the rest of the groups looks good, but because our trio is a little bit off, it's going to make the rest of it look off. The turn on it, I like that you have that heavy base. It's being accented from the outskirt partners. I think that's fun. They knock it back. The ball changes nice. We syncopate with the footwork. And then we end up accenting through that, and then you have the shoulder, we hit, and then we do this pull through. Notice it's a repeated move to transition out. I like the fact that it's not a basket run. Much progress in that area compared to the basket run we saw from the last series. Not a basket run in sight. Mwah! Love it. And I like that we go to the floor. That's so freaking athletic. These components right here, really nice. The pull through is nice. The arm swings are cool. Bit on the simpler side, so that's going to cost you in terms of complexity of choreography. It's not just about your features. It's not about those who are the focal point in your group. It's about what's going on environmentally. Every single person who exists on the stage at any given time gets measured on that complexity. And that's a really hard thing to balance. So we do a drop. The hip sways is fun. So we end up doing this little pull in. It's really fun. I like the accents. So we end up pulling through. It does give me the impression we were doing just some singular catwalks. And then we bring it forward. There's that bun tines. And then they have tapping on the chest. Then we have your whacking overheads. Then we have the range could absolutely improve on it, but I like the sequence itself. I think it adds complexity to the style. Bring it forward is cool. The musicality moment of that is nice. And then it goes da-da pills is nice. And then we end up accenting with the columns. Columns are a smidgen off on the outskirts. It's a little bit hard to appreciate and see. I would also extend that to the mirrored lines. Mirrored columns are not equally spaced from center, so that's going to affect your spacing. We drop it down. There's your dum 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 dum. I like that we had some people with the arms, with the hands, things of the leg is really nice. I love the fact that if we're going to do an extension, the leg is all the way the freak up. I like that you have others in the corners also having a fun stylized extension is cool. Then we have our feature through. Nice. And to take the arms out, they pull it in. Now that part right there is what a gimmick, right? Woo! It's easy. The lean out. I like the legs on that is cool. Great range, great projection for that. They push it down. It goes, oh my gosh, tap it in. Then we have a nice feature, subtle situation. I like the mirroring of the transition as we bring it in. Flick it forward. I like the leg on it. So it's like we're catering to a Vogue nuance, but it's not the Vogue style that we're seeing outright. And I think that's low-key pretty smart from Royal, because they're doing the inflection of it, or like the tone of it very well, but they're not doing a key element that is going to be looked at and go, that was this element, that was a dip, did you do that correctly, kind of stuff, right? It just adds to the tonal quality of it. But we do remember that Whacking and Vogue are different styles. They're sister styles, but they are different in culture and traditions and battles, kits, and things of the like. However, this is an open style choreography competition, so you are allowed to hybridize, and you don't have to have it HHI stylized in isolation, right? So that kind of format, I think, thrives very well in this particular context. So we have the arms flick out, we have opposition on it, and then we flick it. I like the opposition, once again, of our levels. Great level usage. They know how to do that through and through. Spacing's a smidgen off over on the stage left side. Between our groupings, then we have more of our whacking. We thread it through, and then we have that... And then I like that we have these fold overs. They cater to like a reverse crown almost with our finish. Now that looks like a dip, doesn't it? But it's more of a pose-based stylized dip, and I think that's very fun. Wow, great, great, great format. I am well done. I still love and adore that beginning section. That was so grimy and filthy and oh, so good. And in these areas, I would say we are finding what's working for us. I really do see immense improvement in that area where we are fighting for complexity, and it's really an uphill battle when you are so known for that projection and communication. Maintaining that is really difficult. It's the same thing as a professional dancer going to have to sing at the same time. You have to calibrate accordingly. Yumiki, when he did Boys 2 Planet, is a fantastic example of having to figure that out, where he's known for going so full out. You have to figure out what works well with your group and for yourself. So in the context here, complexity of choreography is such a component that's really, really difficult to do and project to the degree that we're seeing. And so seeing staging really get locked in like this, I think is great. And I think that by cleaning up our choices is going to still continue to communicate, but also really up some other scores very quickly. It's just getting it cleaner. But once again, it's also really hard when you're having to figure all this stuff out in a month, right? Well done to that, Royal. Great progress. Okay, we're going to go to Brotherhood. Now, I do know that Brotherhood ends up taking the top spot because we've watched the live stream. Spoiler if you didn't know. Now, there was a lot of interesting thoughts about their usage of the hat, or the lack of taking the hat off to use it as a prop. So the hat is called a got. The reason why I know this is because of the mega crew of 1 million. Fun fact from World of Street Woman Fighter. If you have not seen it, there is a good chance it has shown up on your feed in some capacity. And so the creepy essence of what you see in 1 mil, I would say there's a couple components of their dance that is directly pulled from that mega crew. And I would say this beginning section we're about to see from Brotherhood absolutely gives a cited mega crew impression with the usage of the gat. It's really hard to use a hat like that and for it to look clean. Being completely honest, that's the charm of it, the risk of it, right? So we're going to talk through what components of Brotherhood set, as we look through the rest of the criteria, because we'll probably pull it up. Why did Brotherhood score as high as they did in creativity, so much so they ended up taking 1 mil? If you eliminate the makeup, would we still get the same impression? Right? And also, I will say, to my point of, I've been trained to not factor in concepts, but that was because of the circuits I was on. You didn't use concepts to justify creativity. You used other factors. But in this circuit, you can use concepts. So it's really up to the teams to determine what kind of concept they're going to bring that has the highest chance of being received by our judges without being too on the nose, is what Clay would say. I think there were some moments that were a bit too on the nose, but I think it would have been more on the nose if they did Your Idol. So I think it was smart they did Takedown. And somebody had a theory that Brotherhood meant to have this set go up against Quickstyle because Quickstyle used Takedown to go up against 1 mil. And this would be kind of a dig to them, but also, you know, that more Korean residential flair. But that's more so a theory they'll probably talk about on the podcast. Go watch that when that gets released. So by watching in the wide cam, I see why they earn more creativity points. And it's not because of the makeup. Here we go. So we start with a ripple. Well, more so like a ripple of tension they end up adding in opposite directions. This part right here, if you've seen that before, could be because you've seen the mega crew from World of Street Woman Fighter. Is that more so, was that like a creative thing? To me, that's not creative. It's clean though, right? Which is why I'm like, all that, not creative, but clean to me. But I like that we have it rotating in. Take it through that Saja Boys to the world. We don't have Saja Boys normally associated with the track, but I like that they did Saja Boys. And I like that they look forward. I think number 88 did a fantastic job on hitting that signature pose. Like that pose to me is the most impressionable pose of the Saja Boy group. So seeing that there front and center is fantastic. Moving it forward. Present. I like the tension on that, on the eyes with the trace across. On the gat is nice. Now notice you have such a flat surface area surrounding the small part of this hat, right? This section is really hard to get clean when everyone's head is down. I remember touching on this exact point whenever I saw, fun fact, 1 million from Street Man Fighter, their mega crew. That was a note I gave to that. Their cowboy hats did not all match whenever they folded it down because of how they were all wearing it. So the fact that it wasn't as big of an issue here, I find to be mad respect to, because it's really, really hard. Just like gloves, your hat is asking for it to not be clean. The knock on it's fun. The arm swing is nice. Nice try. Their spacing is pretty decent, I would say, over on that stage left. Area of opportunity to space that out a little bit different. Pull around is nice. Then we have more tension, little speed change with the arms going nice and high at the top. Hitting it high-low. The knocks are nice. Take the head through. And then I like the isolation moment with the switch off. And our angles is nice. And then I like the positioning. The pose on that is cool. The head is also nice with the flick up. Then it turns into, it's not just a basic pocket of timing into the spread out. It's complex timings to get us, you know, to separate from the column to an inverted V. So it's unpredictable and when people are coming out and they're clean while they do it. That's a nice complex staging choice. And then we end up doing a nice bow out of that. And then you have this sound. So we listened to this sound, the martial arts combat fit. Now, this was really fun. You can cite it to K-pop Demon Hunters. You know, we're taking out people. If you eliminate the known pop cultural reference of Takedown and Huntrix and Saja Boys and whatever, when you see that sequence and you hear the timbres, instrumentation, and sound context of that section, what they're doing in movement to associate it is a proper musicality awarded thing. It is justified because we can associate to baseline universal media outside of this respective movie that when you hear a punch or you hear a kick, those are sound bits that are used so often over decades of movies and references to martial arts or combative media. So having that here really makes sense from a generalized perspective as well as a nuanced niche perspective. If you get it, you get it, right? Push it around. The toss around is fun. They are syncopating. They're creating some complexity. And then we end up doing a turn. Number 2 got a little bit off there on our timing. There's your veins. Then I noticed a little cape here. Didn't clock it as much on the front cam, but I noticed it here. Why can't they wear the capes outside of the jersey? Because it's restricting or it's what is it? You're not supposed to, in the rules, cover up the jersey at all. Also, what you wear underneath the jersey should not cause the jersey to become over bulky, like overbulked, or it adjusts or modifies the jersey in any way. So that the reason they have that cape down there, I think it was cool. It adds a really nice texture. It is a risk on your range for cleanliness, but I think they did very well with adding that little nuance. Drop it down, we come up. Then right there, that was a fun gimmick where we have this, we're gonna send energy through your body and send it out. How fun. We drop it down and then we have it as a nice finish in our feature. Every time they have a feature, their feature does not get featured as their own singular moment longer than an 8 count. If you really look, they're either adding into another complex group or they're adding or contributing as the main focal point of being surrounded by people who are like clone-like accents to them. So I think that's a very smart thing that is calibrating to the rules, because Arnell has explicitly said multiple times in multiple interviews, like I've said before, you don't want to create too many solos. And I would say it's because it's going to affect a lot of categories not in your favor, because having one person do a complex thing versus 5 people, that's going to affect your score greatly, even if it's the most unique thing we've seen in the world, right? Spacing's a smidgen off in center right here. I think we got it a little bit fixed, but I would say it's in cater to the lines that we're seeing there. We spread it out, which is nice, but also we saw that spread out spaced section a little too early to where it just looked like a gap, and then we see the reason why. We go down to the ground, we pull it through to the floor we go. Arm swings are nice. Then we end up going up to hit on the bass is great, so I like the usage of the floor, the levels. Then pull it through. We're syncopated with the clap is nice. We fold it in. This sequence is not inherently not complex, creative in content. However, how it caters to the music is very sensible, to the point that Jam Republic got the musicality score. Why? They're introducing, or they're allowing you as an audience member to hear the sounds on their terms. That's what musicality is movement to music relationship. That's the job of a mover or a dancer. You're the visual representation of the song. So how are you going to allow me to hear the song differently? It's not just with the remix. It's going to be with how they choose to interpret that said remix too. The remix helps because it provides unfamiliar patterns that are going to allow us to see it in a new way, therefore making it more creative, and your musicality is going to go up because it's more unique. So they cross it down, send it around. I like the ripple out. They do a little pivot turn. I'm going to gear up and take you down. So I like the high or the tension on that. I have a feeling that something's been trending, or people have been starting to cover a Brotherhood set, and I believe it's this section. I like the subtle levels on it. The point and the tap, 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 they syncopated it. I like the sweep with the head knock is nice. They send it around. They drop it down. Now I'm going to go ahead and say it. I believe number 8 ends up turning the opposite way. I feel like he knows this too. And I feel like in the winner's replay, I'm even going to guess that someone's going to mention he knows. Like, that's life, right? So we go shoulder, shoulder, and then we rotate the head to the front. I like the fingerprint, bringing it back down. Now, just like the note I gave to 1 mil, when they're choosing to do that kick accent, they do end up doing it in round 2, so I'm going to bring that up when we get there. When they do the kick accent, it is something that's very similar on the similar type of sound to justify the fullness of it, which can affect your musicality. In the context here, it doesn't give the impression they're using that movement on the same sound. Yeah, now they went on tone compared to the actual timbre behind the tone like we saw in the beginning. That part right there, yeah, I see it. It's okay though. It's one moment, right? It's literally 2 moves out of the entire set. Out of both sets. It's life. It happens. That's not going to cost your score, honestly. So you have that takedown. Now we have our guys swing here. It's a bit of a basic transition. It makes the staging pretty muddled. And then we end up having others join in on that, which I don't mind the fact that they had half of them kind of pause, because it is the same move we're seeing over the course of an 8 count, so that's a missed opportunity for complexity. Then we have complexity happening here, right? So we hit it through, so notice that you have number 9 as your feature. He is the feature, however, he's not the only one doing something the whole time. Then you have that stop, new feature. He has an accent of a hop, right? Like the head knocks, and the gut does allow for us to see the nuances of the head even more, but it is risky to the exact point I made. If your gut is not on the same way as your neighbor, that's going to screw you over on range, because the gut on the back end is not going to look the same as the person next to you, similar to whenever you're holding a fan a certain way, right? So notice we went from one feature, then he had two others accompany him there, right? And then a popping over, range can improve there, and I like that therefore turned into a cannon or a ripple of a singular movement in the transition. A little bit muddled to get the formation spread out, but I appreciate the intention of it. And then we send it that crying moment. The punch array is also really nice. 7, 8. Notice that was less than an 8 count for your feature, but he contributed to very complex, not complex, but very much a high projection result and response from the rest of the group that complements it, right? So now you have your trio, nice cute moments. There's your aegyo is what we would call that, which is a very Asian cultural thing, but the Korean term of it would be aegyo, and they're absolutely doing the mess out of that, which is very cute. I think it's very sensible to your audience. I think that contributes to the creativity score. Would this be as creative if it was not here? I don't know. I don't know, because just like they're set in New York, it made sense because they were in New York. In Australia, what they ended up doing to some of their stuff happened because they were in Sydney. So that's their way of knowing the space, reading the room, and making those choices. I don't think Brotherhood would do this set outside of Seoul for the reasons that I stated. They're very sensible to wanting to apply to where they're at in the series. So I think whether or not it adds creatively, it's worked well in their favor because the sets that they curate are calibrated to where they're at. And I think that does help to a degree, depending on what judge you talk to. I think that would be something I would probably take note of and ask Arnell. You know what? Let me pause. I'm gonna make that note so I can actually ask if I get the opportunity to. Okay, note was made. So from there they go and they take the formation and turn it into an inverted formation. Spacing on that and cleanliness of the transition could improve there. Then we have the arms rotate, and I like that they bleed it out in a more complex timed ripple. It's not about the thing that you're doing, it's about the timing of what you do. It's really tricky to get that kind of sound with that type of time frame with the amount of people clean. So that would help them in that transition, that would help them in their staging. And then you have something completely different, still hitting that same part of the music, but in a different way, and diving more into the kinesphere a little bit more effectively. Then we go, I like the basses, and then they end up having that as a nice full, hey, we're still here, we're ready to rock and roll moment. And then I like the that's gimmicky, that's fun. That is something that makes Brotherhood sets competitive, is they have a humorous quality to their performance that helps in communication. It helps things land easier because of how they choose to go about their performances. If you take out the humor, these sets would not be as competitive. That is, I would go out on a limb and safely say that. However, Brotherhood, they bring it in that way where they know how to deliver a concept style like this to where it lands. It doesn't look gimmicky and it doesn't look lame because of how they're structuring it and their movement and how they're choosing to have those contrasting, like cute to serious perspectives. Do they need the makeup? I don't think they needed it. I think the GOT usage, I think it's better to have, like, to keep it on, because the worst thing to happen would be to have a prop, like to have that prop fall. I know some people have entertained the idea of we should just go ahead and introduce props if they're, people are wearing them. So it's a little bit more of a pass because it's a wearable prop. I think there's a charm. Whoops. That just dropped. There's a charm to having to dive into creative elements without the reliability of props, or there's a charm to finding loopholes, because it's going to spark creativity and it's going to spark inspiration for a lot of people in a lot of ways, where you don't have to have your costume or a designated prop to justify your set, right? I think that component looks fine, and I think it works well for the general vibe of it. Now, the interesting thing here is, you notice we have a heavy strobe. I don't believe our teams get to control the lighting. Do I think the lighting helped here? Yes. Especially because of their vibration that they ended up doing before, and then we had a lighting situation help cater to that. Is that circumstance? Most likely. I am an advocate for, if IDEO wanted to add a really fun component, that give the teams the right to modify their lighting. I think would be a really, really fun component, because that's what makes D-League so freaking interesting, and it opens up an entirely new world of creativity through staging especially. Now, you would probably run that risk of over soloifying XYZ. I mean, you're going to have your own issues with it, but that's something that I've seen as a positive shape in a professional league that I think would be really fun to see those creative, gears rotating in our brains by having that opportunity. So I'm just going to kind of throw that out there. In the future, have their arms rotated through some unison, but the unison doesn't last longer than like an 8 count, right? So they're giving us those moments, but they're using it as a focal point separation. Not focal point. They're using it as its own moment, but we're not relying dependent so much on it in order to get that point across in our complexity. And like the leg, we rotate it through, so we have now everybody joins back in. So we had 2 of our groups drop low, and then we had 1 group stay up, then we drop low, then we all sent it back. We came right back up, then we hit it through. We have a little wave out of that, turning it through. This is a bit more like we're justifying, we're continuing through, making it through the end of the course. It's more, I don't know if that's the most captivating section of it, but they're maintaining is pretty much what I would do. I would say their stamina slipped a bit here, if we're going to call it any section, until this section here. So we do this lift. I like the subtle lift up at the head is nice. And then there's your illusion where somebody dived in and then somebody else dived out. I thought that was really fun. That gave such ABDC vibes, if you ask me, right? Then we rotate, or we drop on the ground, we drop forward, and then we end up sending it around. I like the ripple, but not everybody rippled it. It was cool. It was interesting. It made you go, why did not everybody ripple? It's because we have the secondary layer that's justifying that choice, right? So we knock it through. There's your grid. Not really grid, but more so like this leveled formation. Spacing could absolutely improve here. Then we cannon it with those tutting positions. I like the head on this. We get nice and low, and we're marching. And then you can try, I like the rotation around, I like the subtlety of the head, and then we end up running off. A very simple transition. That would be my note there. Having a small group go in. Notice the intensity is a lot more, even though we're entertaining similar sequences. Not similar in terms of the actual movements themselves, but how they're being framed is similar than what we've seen before. We open it out. The arm swings are cool. We condense it. Like the head knock, we end up creating some isolations with the speed change of the lower body. We're still polyrhythmic, even though it's simpler in our polyrhythm choices than what we've done before. However, that doesn't discredit the fact that they're going for the complexity of choreography score. Is that enough? I would say yes, because they got first. Then we ninja run. That's a missed opportunity in our transition, but they do spend about 4 counts getting there. Sometimes you got to pick your battles. They're choosing to not fiddle with the transitions as much for the sake of getting other categories. They're being smart. Totally get that. Take you down. So then their speed change, and then you have a lot of ISOs where they end up folding it in, creating a nice polyrhythmic choice, matching the pulse, and then we end up doing an isolated wave up. That's cool. The toss around is nice, and then we do these runs, and then we do a swing around. Then we add it in. That's interesting, that part. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, freeze. It could be a spacing thing because we have 1 person go with this group and we have 3 go in this group. So that would be an area. It just looks a smidgen off on the timing dynamic of that. Then we're going to popping. I like the accent. Not a pop like a chest pop, but I like the chest accent, and I like the arms going up on that. Pushing it forward. There's way more intensity in this section compared to the last course. And then we have that Saja Boy finish. You had those lights go down and up. That was also another fitting quality to the lighting that helps. No matter what people say, this is not really a hot take, but this is just something for you to be observant of. I really do think that lighting matters. And when circumstantial lighting happens, it can enhance a routine. I don't want us to negate from that. Just like having a prop, or just like having certain stylistic movements that engage with the music, those are going to contribute to the overall set. So that's just something to be aware of. If there's a component of a routine that you really like, look and see if the lighting's helping with it too. It's okay that it is. Do I think that the lighting was the reason why they won? No. I do think there were other creative components that we're really able to see much more here in the wide cam compared to the up close. Now, regardless of how much time they took to make it, regardless of how much brain power they took to make it, they understand how they can compete under this criteria format. They knew it before going into the very first series of New York, because they studied the rule book. So they have, they're in a different place than a lot of teams are, where they don't have to give 100%, or they have to do 100%, but it looks different because they only have 5 days, or they don't have a lot of time because their music taste shoots them in the foot every single series. but that's not going to take away the fact that they know how to work with each other to set up a set that's going to make them competitive regardless of where they're at. So all in all, I think they did very, very well with this, and it makes so much more sense why their creativity score was as high as it was. Okay, with 1 million, it's so nice to see this from a wide cam. Like, oh, so good. Okay. Don't think Brotherhood's the only team to have used the World of Street Woman Fighter Mega Crew reference. They do a big one here in this set. I like the creepy aesthetic of this. It's nice. Now, somebody clocked that I said Sung Han Bin's Artist of the Month. I'm glad you clocked it. Because if you look at the fingers, they have red tape. I don't know if they referenced that directly, but I knew they were going to be doing tutting and digits of some kind because of that, because of my association, what I'm used to seeing with that. So I thought that was really cool that we got to see that to a degree. So we have this ripple to begin. Oh my God, you know what I didn't do? I didn't do this. What worked in 1 million's favor? I would say staging was fantastic. I thought they did a great job on it. They're in the best direction they can be for their staging usage. They're running to this very similar problem that Royal Family is, where their lack of cleanliness is going to affect their complexity, as well as their, I would say, the cleanliness affects their complexity immensely. I would say their projection is also affecting their complexity, but projection helps aid in the cleanliness slightly, or it can help in authenticity to a degree. However, your spacing getting off, cleanliness gets off, which will affect this. That's already 3 out of the 10 categories that you don't want to drop at all, especially when you're against teams that understand the format of what works for them consistently in that top 3 spacing. Stamina looks pretty good as well. And I would say creatively, they did a lot of fantastic choices. And I would say their transitions, out of all the teams in the top 3 that we've seen, they have the most competitive in terms of creativity in their transitions compared to the ones that we've seen. Anyway, now we're going to continue on. So sorry. All right, so we do this nice ripple out, and then we end up sending it up and around. That was interesting. Not sure if we were meant to be a ripple or if it was supposed to be unison. That I don't know, because it was a bit unclear in the framework and context of that. But I like that we do these straight crawl outs. That goes from 1 person to 3. That makes me uncomfortable, which absolutely helps in your musicality and it helps in your projection and communication, because I think that was the point. Make your girl uncomfortable. So we have our spacing with a couple diagonals. We have 2 people in center. We have more going on in that center point. Notice the bass is basing. I know some people were not fans of how much the camera's shaking. To me, I'm used to it. If you've watched a KQ dance practice with psychers or ATs, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For me, it just shows how heavy that bass is in that room, which means you got to project so much more because you have a feeling that's physically existing in your audience and on your panel. So having your movement project to match that is harder to do, in my humble opinion. So I think they did really good. I like that. So we're moving forward, the punch out. Now, I did tell you guys when I was looking at round 1, is Baek Koo-young going to be pulling a Scott Forth side like Scott did in, in Sydney, because he didn't know if he was going to be there because he was having a little baby? I think he did, because he didn't come out until his little gunshot moment. So I clocked it. I didn't clock it in the live stream, but I clocked it here. So we end up traveling it out, punch forward. I like that we have a trio accenting through. Not the cleanest in our choices. So I really do think cleanliness would have really salvaged a lot of points on this set. But it goes back to, you're doing 2 sets in one night. You're asking for a sprint on sprint. So I like that we have it covered up on our face. We lift it up. I don't know if that was a completed lift there. Let's look. We go up. Yeah, not quite the cleanest or most readable there, but I see what's going on the sides. It definitely looks more creepy crawly, right? The backwards transition, not quite the cleanest on our spacing. So I think that would be an area of opportunity there. The punch, and then we have somebody get accented out, which is really cool. Solo feature is cool, however, remember the point that I made about Brotherhood and how something that they're doing very well with their 1-point features that I do think could be something that other teams keep in mind, because they do it very well, just like 1 mil, their staging and their transitions are really fun, is if you isolate your solo feature, you're slowly going to be losing points in a couple categories, regardless of how captivating they are, how creative, how complex they are, because it's only one person out of 20 doing it, and it's a team sport. So that's an area of opportunity, is having more go on from your feature in collaboration to the rest of the group. The toss down's nice. We have the turn out of it. We end up accenting our stability. Could improve a little bit there. That's going to affect your cleanliness. The pullback with the drop down is really nice. It showcases athleticism because that was a pistol squat variant. That was cool. The drop down is nice. Arm swing around. We have this backwards transition, and I like others moving forward. So that's going to help. Oh no, what happened? Literally, I thought it went private again, and I was about to die. If you're just watching the 1 mil set, I highly recommend you guys watch all the set reviews, but I know these are long. These videos went private right before I started reviewing royal families, and I almost cried. So I'm a bit sensitive when things reload. Okay, so I like that we have this choice. That helps in your staging because of the transition. They have people going forward, so it showcases complexity in depth in your formation itself because you have multiple directions happening, even though we're all facing the same way. It's really, really nice. Then we have this group. I like the kick, the reset out of that, and then they have a nice gimmicky hinge over, super fun. And then the pull is also really nice. This little scoop moment is really nice. Now notice that kick. We've seen that kick from the first set. That's not going to affect this set by what we saw in the first set. I don't think it should. Once again, though, I'm not in the judges' room, so I don't really know those little details. But I personally wouldn't count that. But I would be sensitive to seeing how many times they do it because I absolutely touched on that exact kick accent in the last set when we reviewed it. We drop it down. New feature. Love the mess out of her flexibility. I like that we have people crawling on the side. I think we have a bit of a simpler transition on the back. So that would be a note. And having one person doesn't help as much as what's about to happen. Where they're about to have, look, there's more people coming in. I like the addition. I do think having 3 people justify that section would have really helped compared to 1, but I thought that was gorgeous what we chose to do. That was nice. We're moving forward. The kick is fun with the arms. We tap it. We drop it down with the swipe and the swing. And then we have fullness with the levels. The drop is nice. Clarity. No, it's not because of the shakiness of the camera. You can tell based on the content and how they're executing it. Notice the spacing could improve. And having good spacing allows for your content to be more legible. And that's going to help your complexity, and that's going to help your cleanliness. Spacing and cleanliness go hand in hand. I really believe that. They hit it with the accent through. Then the chest is fun there. We consolidate the formation. We have different levels. To the floor, I love that we didn't drop to the ground in a predictable way. I think that absolutely helped in the transition side. And then we go into a speed change, lower body, but notice it's still athletic because of the hinge back in the position that we're in. And then we're going into more of our tuts. Notice that we're not just catering to these basic ones. We have it where we have it folded out, where we have this one going in. That mess is wild work, and they're fixed pointed. Right? Really cool. I would say some clarity on that, and some of our timings are off on it. I appreciate the intention. We drop it low, we send it off and around, we accent diagonally to center. Then we have those who are squatted and moving. Yes, it's to not distract, but we could have done the same content, but at a lower level. I think that would have helped towards complexity. The accents also are really nice. They send it back in. It's nice. Then we have our popping trio. I like the fact that you have quantity helping with that. Arms accent out. So why do I believe, this could just be a hypothesis, why do I think complexity of choreography suffered a smidge on this set? It's because of the environmental and complementary choreography from when you have your features or your groupings of features or units. So that would be why everybody being a part of it in some way, form, or fashion, and not just in a simple speed change pocket of timing, could really help. In transitions, there's a lot of missed opportunity there too, specifically in when you have just like lines coming in from the back and you're just doing the same move in a predictable pocket of timing. But I would say the transitions with those who are on stage to get to the next formation is really nice. The only, like, the area of opportunity in the transitions for 1 million would be when you get on and off stage in particular. So the knock and the accents are really cool. The separation. Now this move right here, If you've seen Wall Street Woman Fighter, you have seen this mess. They didn't do it this extensively, but we've seen it. As a fantastic transition cinematically. But yeah, this is right here. Come on. They are holding onto her for dear life right here. I like the crawling. She gets sent away. Gorgeous choice. So is this the most creative thing I've seen? No. Why? Because I'm able to cite a media reference immediately on it. But can I still appreciate and commend the choice? Yes, I can. Absolutely, I can. And I like how it matches our music. I think how we inserted it was creative. It was refreshing, right? It's not just solely original. It's really, really nice to see that. The accents are nice with the arm swings, and everybody slowly comes up. They bring it through, and they have it up. So we had an add-on, and then we have it all pressed. We go in, so that looks like, ooh, that's another add-on, just a different, instead of going in to out, we're going from stage right to stage left. The pickups through, and then we have a vengeful number 19 come in. Then he is missing an arm, it looks like, right? But don't worry, it's behind his back. Then he hits it, gun. I think it would be really nice to have seen him be introduced in a more unique way versus just a vengeful walk-on. But that's just, you can pick your battles on that. So yeah, if anything, we're going to let him hang out here, even though if I ask them to hold that, that would be crazy of me. That, if anything, just kind of affirms the note that I have of making your on stage to off stage to on stage transitions have that area of opportunity. But the transitions and the formations themselves, which is what we are about to see, is probably one of my favorite transition sequences they've done. That is so risky and really cool that they transition that way to the floor. Then we're running off. Is it basic? Running is basic to a degree, yes, but they take it and run with it. Watch. So we go to the bridge. Come on, athleticism. Then he walks forward. Notice he builds up the pace. Then we have others run into an add-on. Then we have others run here. I wish the two who are running in the back, they are technically running off stage, but we had others run on. I wish these people who are running off would do the dance back here. God, that would be so cool. But then you see others have this switch off where they're adding in, but you're running to get in the formation and you're running to get out of it. So that's a complementary transition. So even though my wishful thinking is seeing these people run, they stop and do a bit of the dance and then they run, that would have been really cool on the staging part. However, I still commend what we're seeing here. It is a gorgeous way of utilizing running for your transitions. Like that right there, using your run to spread out, using your run to come back in. That is a sensible transition because we've been seeing people in thread and it's not a basic on and off. We're going back, we're going diagonal, we're going on diagonal, we're going across the front. We are staying behind. Like, oh, that's really nice. And notice it's mirrored. All of it's mirrored, and that's what helps maintain balance. So the range, I would say, has a lot of area for improvement on the cleanliness. The pull down's really cool. The slide is also really nice. They gave me a B-Boy Junior when he's on his knuckles. If you've ever seen him break. Love that. So we toss it. So we've seen something similar to that. It was an add-on, granted, from stage right to stage left, but that dynamic output we've seen very closely to this one. So possibly having them as bookends could have been more beneficial than having them placed where they were in the dynamic pool. They end up accenting through. Kickball change is fun. They open it up. The fullness is nice. The projection is nice. I would say, like I mentioned with Baku Young, happening in round one, having him here in that front and center. He's holding it down. He's not standing out, which means everybody else is matching his projection. I think that's great. The pulls are also really nice. I like the hinge over with this pulse is nice with the kickback. The swing down is also nice there. The accent sending it in, click, click, it's syncopated. There's that kick. Remember what I said. You're choosing to hit and justify certain timbres and instrumentation with these go-to moves that's going to drop your complexity and it's going to drop your creativity that way as well. Now, it's not just the kick. Sometimes when you're choosing to do a slide, a tension slide, that can affect it when you repeat textures or repeat intention on the same parts of the music. Drop down to the floor, we do a switch off, we do a thread. We've already seen that thread introduced in the track earlier, and then we send it up. Then we have these digit spider-like accent on the tail end. Really fun. I understand why we probably didn't utilize more of our fingers throughout the routine. We used our full body because the projection of it is really hard to see this compared to seeing us use our full body. All in all, thinking back to the placements where you have Royal at third, 1 mil ending up being in second, and then Brotherhood in first. Some things out of all the teams would be just general notes. So this is just for everybody. Having your features be integrated in the set, not as isolated as what's been happening with a lot of teams. Figuring out how to calibrate them in the set but still make them stand out is a really good area of opportunity for a lot of teams. Cleaning up the range of our choices, especially if they're texturized or especially if they're pushing projection, is going to fix a lot of scores. And complexity of choreography, we're seeing more and more teams choose to opt for more improved staging, but that complexity is getting suffered. I know with all of these cases, it comes down to the amount of time you have and the amount of sets you're bringing. I have no idea what kind of quality sets we're going to be getting for LA and for championship, because that's 4 sets in a month. If you think about it, it's currently August 3rd, and they compete these on the 19th and 20th of September. So yes, it's a month and a half, but that's probably less than 2 weeks per set. Most of these groups we're used to, before the season started, pulling a set every 3 months, or depending on the gig with 1 mil, it depends on the turnaround time for the artist and the company, because a lot of them have artist training. So all in all, these teams are doing a fantastic job holding it down in every series. Yes, there's probably creative fatigue existing, and we're pushing pedal to the metal, having to output and continue to improve and grow. But man, we're going to commend them where credit is due. Every set that we've been seeing, regardless of the pros and cons of them, they're showcasing the improvement of a listening ear, trying to apply themselves to a criteria list that's really, really hard to apply yourself to consistently. So I highly commend these teams. You're not going to hear me say anything ill will towards them, because why? There's nothing but celebration to be had here. Yes, we can hold accountability, sure, and we do that. That's what the reviews are for. But I'm really, really proud to be sitting here, being able to see their journey from launch event all the way to here, getting to see their progress and seeing how they're calibrating themselves to maintain who they are as a group, but also getting to kind of have the sense of self and getting to push that in a competitive way. And I do see each team continuing to grow and get better as these times go on. And I'm very excited to meet these teams. I'm excited to meet you guys when I'm there on site in LA. We did it. It's long. This is long. These reviews are long, but they are good. And if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. Please drop a comment. I'll do my best to answer. You guys know me. I know you. I'm Jess. And I will catch you guys in the comments and on the flip side. Bye.